today's explanation with the concept of economic growth. I would like to begin today's explanation of this economic growth concept by asking my students a very simple question. That is, how would you define that your financial condition is good? Some of you might say, if I have a big house, then I would probably say that my financial condition is good. And some of you might say, if I have a car of my own, then my financial condition is good. But those of you who are thinking this, you are absolutely right. But the main thing that is essential to buy a big house and to buy a car is money. If you are having a good amount of income lying in your hand, then you can purchase both the things. So let us move to the concept now. Economic growth. How do you think the economy is going to grow? What is the essential thing, the most essential thing the economy is actually required for its growth? If you're guessing the income or the national income that the economy should have, then you're absolutely right. Yes, the meaning of economic growth itself says that an increase in country's real level of national output of goods and services. When you see that a country has a increase in the national output means you are applying some inputs in the form of labor, in the form of land, in the form of capital, and also in the form of entrepreneurship. And in return, you're getting the output in the form of rent, in the form of wages, in the form of interest, and in the form of profit. So when you are actually getting the national output in the form of goods and services in any country, you consider that concept with a name as economic growth. Otherwise, an increase in the value of goods and services produced by every sector of the economy. If you don't want to put it in this way, then you can also understand it by other way also, that when you gather the income, that is the GNI, the gross national income or the national income, by aggregating all the income that you have earned from three sectors of the economy, that is the primary sector or the agriculture sector, secondary sector or the industrial sector, or the tertiary sector, which is nothing but the service sector. So when you get the value of goods and services increased, when you say that there is a increase or there is a increasing trend kind of change, if you actually observe it in all the three sectors of the economy, then you can considerably say that it is a phenomenon of economic growth there. It is always linked with a large increase in productive ability of the economy. It is as simple as that. If you have a good amount of productivity, only then you can have a good amount of output produced. If you don't have the productive ability within yourself, do you think you're going to get the output what you have aimed for? Or do you think are you going to get the amount of income what you have aimed for? The answer you would be aiming and you would be giving it will be no. And that is the reason why it actually always linked with a large increase in productive ability of the economy. Hope you all are clear with the meaning of economic growth now. Now let us move ahead and study about its measurement. How does this economic growth is measured? Let us see what's given here. It can be measured by an increase in a country's gross domestic product. There's a concept with the name gross domestic product. What is the meaning of that? We have already studied in our previous class, that is class 11, that the meaning of gross domestic product is the total amount of goods and services that is produced by any country domestically within the duration of 1 year. Usually you take a considerable time, but here considerable time is 1 year. So that is gross domestic product. If you see that there is an increase in GDP, the amount of income what you used to receive it in GDP previously and what amount you are receiving in currently, if you see that there is an increment in the current GDP what you are actually receiving, you can say that there is an increase in the economic growth, and you can refer to that increase as the economic growth. Now, apart from that, apart from the gross domestic product as the measurement method of economic growth, there are other two methods also in which you can actually study or measure the economic growth. If you talk about short run, let me tell you what do you mean by short run here, a time period less than 1 year here. So if you want to measure economic growth in terms of short run, then you have the measurement areas as rate of savings, how much a country is able to save it, that will be taken into considerations. The more the savings it is, the better economic growth or the better amount of financial condition of a country is. That is how it is taken into consideration. Next is capital output ratio. Capital output ratio is nothing but every country which is having a good financial conditions will be having a good amount of capital contributing ability also, because a countries who are actually having good amount of income or the national income or the gross national income, they actually have good amount of salaries of themselves, the government will be financially sound, and mostly they are all educated, because of which they are getting the high salaried jobs, and because of which they will be having the ability to contribute for the capital in a greater way or in a much better way when we compare this to the developing economies. So that is about the short run measurement of economic growth. Now, coming to the long run, it is increase in labor force and also increase in technological growth. When you take the duration of more than 1 year, that is, we are talking about the long run here, then we can observe that the increase in labor force, the more number of laborers we have, the more number of people we have, more number of tasks can be completed within less time period. So more number of laborers will give you more amount of work done. More amount of work done will directly give you more amount of output. And when you actually have a more amount of output, that is what you refer with the concept of economic growth. Now, increase in technological growth. If there are machines in place of men, if any country is actually following capital intensive method instead of going for labor intensive method, then that country will be able to produce good amount of products within less amount of time. So when you are able to produce huge amount of products within thousands or lakhs of quantity, when you are able to produce within a day, then you can say that you have a good amount of technological growth and you will be able to survive fantastically in the market, and your market will be spread to a long distance. So that is how the economic growth is achieved. And when you have a good amount of technological growth, then it also adds to the increase in output. And when the output increases of any economy, you refer that concept with the name as economic growth. So I hope that the concept of measurement of economic growth is pretty clear to you all. Now let us see what are the determinants of economic growth. Determinants are nothing but the factors on which the concept of economic growth depends. So let us see what are the determinants here. First is rate of saving of the economy. Now when you are actually talking about economy here, you are referring to a country here in particular. So when you are talking about rate of saving of the economy here, it simply means that what is the amount of saving a country actually saves within a duration of 1 year. If the savings are good, then you consider that country as a economic growth country, because most of the countries when you actually talk about, they don't have a good amount of savings when you are actually referring it to developing countries. When you actually go for the countries like developing countries like India would not be able to save a good amount of savings when you actually talk about the government side, because they have many issues to actually deal with. The problems like unemployment, the government is actually busy in providing employment to the unemployed people, and the another problem is poverty. The government is actually busy in taking out the programs for the in order to feed the poor so that the poverty can be eradicated. Right from the first 5 year plan to this current 5 year plan, 13th 5 year plan, what we are into, that all are actually, the government is actually into removing or eradicating this poverty and unemployment. So the rate of savings actually define how strong the financial position of a country is, and that defines the concept of economic growth here. Next is capital output ratio. We have already seen it above. Capital output ratio, the more amount of ability, the more amount of income that an individual has, the greater amount of capital contribution he can do it from himself. And that would actually add to the economy or the development of the particular country. Next, the third concept is rate of growth of labor force. The more the labor actually increase in any economy, in any country, the laborer point to be noted here, the laborer who are actually increased or we are considering here, they should be actually skilled and talented laborers. Unskilled labor will never contribute to the economy. It is the skilled, talented laborers who are having the ability to do the work and contribute for the development of the nations are only considered or taken into consideration here. So rate of growth of the labor which are actually skilled. And next is the rate of growth of technological progress. How good the technology is actually increasing or improving in any country or economy. Because if the technology improves, then automatically the things which used to take 10 days of time, they will be completed within a short duration of 1 or 2 days. So that defines how good you are in terms of technology, and that also defines how good you are financially and how stable you are when you actually talk about the financial conditions. So that is all about the determinants of economic growth. Hope the concept of economic growth and how it is measured, that is the economic growth measurement, and also the determinants of economic growth are pretty clear to you all. Thank you very much. We will meet in the next video with yet another concept of economic development. Thank you. Thank you once again, one and all.